Yeah, so essentially, I think this is a really important skill set to have. It's super valuable just in our time with the pandemic, just, with everything, so much of our learning and entertainment and all that kind of stuff, science communication being online. And also, I think specifically important for science communication people to have these skills. I think that, I'll talk a bit about this, but just making your science communication engaging and entertaining, I think actually goes a long way towards effective communication. And so I hope you'll find this session useful. Please reach out to me if you have any questions following up, or if there's anything I can help you with as well. So how I'm going to run today is I'm going to do this in 4 or 5 parts, I think. And I am going to have a question period after each part. And so there will be opportunities for questions at the end as well. So what we're going to start with is a bit of an introduction, why it can be helpful to put in some effort into your editing, what tools are available, and what we'll be looking at today and how they can be used for different purposes. Then we'll dive into the tools, into OBS, and look at the features, how to get things set up for actual production. Then we'll have I'll do a live demo of a recording workflow and show you how that all works. And then we'll do a live demo of the streaming workflow, which is a little different, but still using all the same tools and everything like that as well. So it'll give you those 2 sort of workflows to be familiar with. And then if there's time, I would love to get people to actually, if you have OBS open on your desktop and, want to connect up and set up some scenes as we go through the process. And then, I'll set up a private stream on YouTube, and we can share the stream key, and we can actually just take turns plugging into the stream and producing some live video content as well. And then there will be opportunities for even more questions at the end if there wasn't something that was answered through all of the different sort of sections that I'm going to go through. So I'm going to start with just an introduction to the material here. And so why do we bother with this whole process, and essentially, no, there's no sound for this video, but what I want to say, this is a screen grab of an Astronomy on Tap event that Mark and I produced. And the point here is just that the visually engaging and dynamic material has a way and an ability to actually increase viewer attention, increase comprehension, and also therefore results in information retention as well. So, and also even an increased kind of personal connection with the speaker as well. So all of these contribute to actually achieving a more effective communication. If your viewers are actually interested, engaged with the speaker, if that's you or if that's somebody you're working with on an event, can make a connection with the speaker, can remember more of the content. These are all really key aspects of science communication and really something to keep in mind. So it's not about making it fancy for fancy's sake. It's about making it fancy for communication's sake. And I think that's the kind of nutshell I want to start this whole thing off with is, yes, there's some really interesting visual elements that you can employ here, but it is, at the end of the day, about making successful science communication. So as you can see with Pietro, cutting to a scene without any slides really helps create a connection to the speaker and allows viewers to really focus on, you as the speaker. So this is just a little bit of an aside, but just to try using a blank empty slide every once in a while, especially after you've really sort of shown a slide with a lot of information. You can cut to just the speaker and focus on what the speaker is telling you. It gives you an opportunity to speak about your content without having to refer to your content, which is a really interesting moment in a talk, really. If you watch, TED Talks, this happens all the time, right? The amount of time that the slideshow is up is pretty limited. Most of the focus is on the speaker. And so we'll get back to this because it is a really important scene that I cut to, but just wanted to sort of put that in there that, even if you're doing an event in person, a science talk in person, that black slide can still have that same effect and can be a really interesting way to do that. And so this is a sample. Is it playing? Or did I play? Okay. So this is OBS, and this is a sample recording of an event that we did a long time ago. But just to give you sort of a visual sense of what's going on with this software. OBS stands for Open Broadcast Software, and it's an open source live video production software. And so unlike other video production software, and you may or may not have used something like this, but essentially in a video production software like Final Cut or Adobe Premiere or something like that, you would have your timeline and you would be arranging your clips in your timeline and editing and shortening and adjusting the volume, all that kind of stuff. And then you would export, or you would render out your entire edited timeline. What OBS allows you to do is live edit, right? So what that means is producing a 15-minute talk takes 15 minutes, not 3 or 6 or 24 hours, which you can easily spend if you're doing that sort of manual editing in sort of more traditional video editing software. So while the scenes can take some time to set up, all of those you really only have to set up once, and then you can sort of reuse them and that kind of stuff. There's a couple of really interesting things here, and an often overlooked feature of OBS is the ability to use it as just a recording and live editing tool instead of streaming. And so I'm going to talk about each of those kind of workflows. But as an example, you can take a talk, you can record a talk, or take a pre-recorded talk and go from something like this, where you have the speaker and the presentation, to this, where you can really have more control and cut between different scenes of your talk and create something a lot more dynamic. So again, there's no sound here, just sort of illustrating what can be done. I also wanted to mention some of the other software that is out there. One that comes up a lot in conversation about these kind of workflows is Streamlabs. Streamlabs can be very nice. It's designed as a user-friendly version of OBS, and to an extent it does have that feature, but I did look into it pretty extensively in preparation for this workshop, because if it was, the better option for a beginner, I would have used it. I'm still going to recommend OBS because Streamlabs is built on OBS, but is its own. It's no longer open source. So OBS is open source. Streamlabs built off of it and has created their kind of self-contained piece of software, which means it's not extensible. You can't add plugins to it. And there are a few plugins which are really, really handy that we use in OBS. So for that reason, I will always just recommend that if you're getting into it, Streamlabs might seem easier, but OBS in the long run is going to have your back, and you might as well just start with that so that you'll be set up when you start needing those extra features. Okay, so we're going to dive in here. But before we do so, are there any questions just on that first little bit? Connor, go ahead.
Hi, Zach. I was just wondering, I don't know if you're going to get into it, but you mentioned that you could change just a standard Zoom stream into the more dynamic stream live. Is that like right out of Zoom, right in Zoom that you can do that? Like, does Zoom give you a bunch of OBS in streams for each participant or something, or do you have to do a lot of work to get it?
Yeah, so I definitely will get more into this, but essentially all OBS does is just screen capture. So all I have for a live event that we produce through Zoom is just a screen capture of what is happening on Zoom. And then creating those scenes all happens on the OBS side of things.
I see. So it must get kind of crazy if Zoom reorders the location of everyone's screen.
It does, yes.
Okay.
And actually, before live events, I ask people not to, like, if it's a panel discussion, I'm often setting people's names up alongside their videos in OBS, and if they turn the camera off and come back on, then it changes where everybody else is on the screen. But you can actually in Zoom, you can just drag and reorder people now as well. So they have made it a little bit easier.
Oh, that's nice. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take a look at what is actually happening here. So here is like I said, this is a screen grab of live production of a previous event. And I'll just go over sort of what we're looking at, and then we'll look at how to actually put it together. So it looks a little bit complex right now. And, you know, Connor, like you said, it's because it is, right? This setup is for an event that had between 4 and 6 live speakers. So there was a lot to kind of organize in terms of the scenes and setups and everything. But essentially, it breaks down into some pretty simple parts. On the right, you have what is called your program. And this is what you are broadcasting. This is what's being output to your stream, or if you're going with the recording route, what is being recorded. On the left, this is called your preview, and this side of the screen is what's on deck. And so you can choose what's happening over here. So you can choose which scene you're doing. You can edit stuff in the preview before you cut to it. You have a lot of control over what's happening here. And then as soon as you click transition, then it will transition to putting what you have in your preview as what you have in your live broadcast in your program. And then at that point, your preview will change to the previous scene that you had there. But you can also go and select a different scene as well. So it tends to just switch back and forth for convenience, which can be an easy way to do things. But down here, you have your list of scenes. So all of these different scenes that are set up with different video arrangements, configurations, different logos that are visible or names or that kind of stuff. And then in this little window, you have your sources, and your sources consist of all of your assets that you're working with. So if you have recorded videos, if you have a live input, if maybe you're doing a webcam capture, maybe you have some graphical assets like some logos or that kind of stuff. All of those are your sources for your production. And then you've got your audio mixer, which I'll get more into, but just shows you your audio outputs. And then there's some other settings. And then there's some controls over here as well. So, and I'll show us all how to use those. So it does break down pretty easily. So essentially you're choosing which scene from your scenes menu, what comes next, and then you're transitioning, and then that's what's getting captured. This is just a slide to show you some of the visual assets that you might want to include. So this is kind of just a smattering of things pasted into a PowerPoint slide, but obviously you would arrange them in your scene so that they kind of fit with what's with your production. You know, so those black area here would obviously be your Zoom feed of Nick in this case. But also at this point, I should mention just, you know, the fancy like overlays that you see the Twitch streamers use, because this is actually what OBS is like more traditionally used for. And so, you know, you can go and download these overlays and that kind of stuff. But what I tend to do is just, I keep it really simple. So I just arrange, drag and drop these graphical elements to set up the design of my production. There are a few plugins which are very handy to have as well. The main one, and both of these are really you would only really use them if you're doing live streaming, and probably only if you're using Zoom or another video conferencing software for live streaming. Virtual Cable, vbaudio.com/cable, is a piece of software that just allows you to basically have a virtual cable that you're plugging into different applications. So in Zoom, you have you can select which speaker you're using. And normally you would select your headphones or your computer speaker. But if you're doing a streaming setup, then you're actually connecting that to a virtual cable, and you're plugging the virtual cable into OBS. And then the other one here I have listed is Virtual Cam, which actually just creates another camera feed in OBS that you can then feed back into Zoom as a camera if you want. It can be helpful, it can be confusing, but it's I just list it here because it's handy. The other one is Media Controls, which as of yesterday is an integrated plugin. I was just looking into that yesterday and then updated my OBS and found that it was fully integrated. So that happens automatically now. So we're going to dive into the recording process, and I'll do a screen share here. Do we have any other questions up until this point, just about the tools in general?
I have a quick question. So
yeah,
actually, I think we're about to see this. So I see that in the bottom left, you have scenes and whatnot of OBS. How do you, yeah, it'd be interesting to see actually how do you bring in, say, those graphical elements or set up, you know, what actually makes a scene? I guess that's what we're about to see.
Yep, exactly. So we'll start by setting something up here. And I'm going to set up for just a recording workflow here, but because I showed these already, I did just want to start by dragging some of these other assets over. So here I have a folder of some assets from a previous production. Here is sort of a logo for the event. So I'll drag this into sources. It's one of the sources that we'll use. I've got this backdrop image, so I can drag that on in there as well as a source. We've got this other sort of alternate logo, so I can drag that in there as well. And then I've got my speaker names, and I've got a bunch of them set up. I have a Illustrator document which I've created these in. You can
Zach,
also, yeah.
These sources, are these sources unique to the scene that you're making, or are these sources available to any scene that we make?
You would have your own assets, but the sources in OBS you can use for any scene. But you can also have them like visible or not visible on a scene. So if I wanted to create another scene, and I'm calling it scene 2, it's not automatically sharing all the sources. But if I went to, if I got something set up a little bit and wanted to sort of recreate that. So I'm just going to, start dragging this stuff around a little bit. Have this little tiny logo up here. Maybe put it over there. Maybe put a speaker name here as well. If I wanted a similar scene to this, then I could just right click on the scene and go to duplicate. And then I go to scene 3, and now scene 3 has all of the same things in the same places. So it just depends on how you want to add a scene. You can also copy things from one scene to another. So these are the sources that are visible in this scene. If I just want this this backdrop and go to scene 2, I can paste it into scene 2 and it will appear in the same place. And yeah, so let's delete these other scenes. Yeah, we'll remove this, and I'm just going to bring in, let me see here. We're just going to bring in a recording of a video. And so this is a McDonald Institute seminar. And I'm going to create another scene with just that video in it, actually. Pop it in there. Now, there's a couple things that I want to mention. So what I talked about before, yeah, Connor?
I was just wondering, the order that things are in your sources column, does that tell you which one's on top?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So there's speaker name, it's under the video. If I move it over, it can go over top of it. Yeah. So a couple of sort of setup things that I want to do as well is I want to select studio mode, and that switches between just having the one video preview and program at the same time to give you this, what I was talking about before, the preview and program split. So you have more control there over what's happening. And then this gives you the ability to prep and design your other scenes before cutting to them. A couple of other things. If you are using pre-recorded video, you're going to want to go to properties of your video, and you're going to want to uncheck restart playback when video becomes active, when source becomes active. Because what that's going to do is if you're switching to another scene that doesn't have the video, if if that is happening. It might not, but if that does happen, and then you cut back to your recording, you don't want the recording to start over again. You want it to keep going. So that's okay. And the other thing is that I actually can't hear anything right now. And this is super important and a really kind of finicky detail, but very easy to solve once you know how. So there is this video playing. I can see that there's audio because I can see that there is, you know, I don't know what you call that, output. And if I connected this to YouTube and started streaming, the audio would be streaming. You would be able to hear it there. But I want to be able to hear the audio while I'm actually doing the production. And so what we need to do for me to be able to hear that is just click on the little gear, the settings icon for that audio track, and go to advanced audio properties. And what we see here is we have an audio monitoring setting. And right now the monitor is off. And there's two other options. There's monitor only, but mute output. So if I did that, I can hear it, but now I'm not streaming anything to YouTube. Or I can select monitor and output, which now I'm streaming the audio to YouTube, or I'm capturing it in the recording, and I can also hear it, which is what I want to be able to do. So now that it's playing and I hear this video, I'm actually going to pause it using this little control here, which is the media control plugin that is now integrated into OBS and not a separate plugin. And I'm going to start designing some scenes. And so something that's really handy is if you right click on a piece of media, right click on a source, you can go down to transform and you can select fit to screen, and we'll fit that source to screen. The shortcut, which is very, very useful, is Control F. And so I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger because that seems like there's some extra space around the video source. And that's pretty good. So now I have this scene, which I'm just going to call something so that I can know what I'm cutting to. So I'm just going to call this full zoom scene. And I'm going to start duplicating this. So the first scene I'm going to make is, I'm just going to call it slides only. Okay. So now here's a cool part about how we're actually setting up the scenes. Is I can click and drag this around. You can see this red box around it. This red box, if I click and drag it like this, it's letting me resize the source like so. But if I hold down Alt and go to resize it, I'm actually cropping the source down a little bit. And this source actually has some, so I just clicked Alt and I dragged on the left. So if I drag that back over, you can see that I'm now revealing that other part of the source. And so I'm calling this scene slides only. So I'm just sort of cutting in, zooming in on just the slide. And once I have that kind of in my, once I have that like that, yeah, you know, so they did just change some of this. It's a little finicky now, but yeah. So once I have the sort of the red box just around the piece that I want, then I'm going to do Control F again and bring that to full screen. And then I can further size it if I need to from there, but that Control F is just a handy thing. So now I've got full zoom scene and I've got the slides only. I'm going to go to the full zoom scene and I'm going to duplicate again. And I'm going to call this scene slides with speaker thumbnail. You can call your scenes whatever you want, whatever you find helpful to be able to identify what's happening. So as you can see from how I've named this, it's actually pretty similar to what I have here, but I'm going to make a couple of different edits. So here I have the source. I'm going to copy the source and I'm going to paste a reference. Or if you just did Control V, it would automatically paste the reference. So now I've got 2 copies of the source in the scene. And with one of those, I'm going to select just the speaker and adjust the sort of the bounding box around just the speaker and slide that up there. So just get this bounding box just around the speaker, like so. And so this is this top level one, which it's overlapping the other video because it's on top in the sources panel. And I'm going to select the other one and do the opposite, where I'm just sliding over and cropping around just the slides. Or what I could also do is I could just grab the slide crop that I did for the other scene. So actually, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to go to slides. I'm going to copy this, Control C, go to here, Control V. And why did it do that? I'm not sure. Copy. There we go, paste. And then I'll just reorder this. So there's our speaker there. So I've got the full zoom scene, slides only, slides with speaker thumbnail. I'm going to duplicate this one. And this one I'll call speaker with slide thumbnail.
Zach, a question about the, obviously what will need to happen is these 2 videos will have to play in sync. Is that the default, or is there something that you have to do?
Yeah, because they are the same video, they will play in sync. And that's when we see the option there for pasting a reference, that's what that means as well.
Right, so the audio is just one audio feed. The video is in sync between them. Great.
Yeah. It's yeah, how do I describe it? Yeah, it's all referencing the same source. Yeah, I see where the confusion is, because it looks like it's 2 different sources in the panel, but it is referencing the same source. So I'll do Control. Okay, maybe that's okay. So for this one, I want to focus on the speaker and have the slides appear kind of up to the side. And I call this one like the news anchor scene, because it's kind of like that kind of a format. So there we have, these are like, this is actually basically the 4 basic scenes that I cycle through for a live event. Slides only. Oh, sorry, there is one more. So I'm going to duplicate the last one, and I'm just going to call this speaker only. And I'm just going to delete that other source and move the speaker over here. Yes. So these are the four that I use the most often. Slides only, speaker only, slides with speaker, and speaker with slides. And then from there, you know, like I was saying before, if I wanted to start decorating this a little bit or designing this, then I could do that with these other design assets. So I might have this piece come in for these two scenes, and then I might do a name over top of this as well. So if I wanted to do a name, I would just go to add a source here, and I could do text, and I could just call it name, and it's going to give me a text field here, and I can just give our speaker their name. Like so. Yeah, so now if I want to record this, I can just go ahead. So let's say I want to start with just the speaker. I can slide the timeline, you know, to the beginning of the talk, and I can start that recording going, or I can go over here and I can go to start recording. Probably want to transition here, so this is what's live, and then I can say start recording and then play the video. Now this is recording what's in the program, and like I said, so if we want to go between these other scenes, then we can just do that on the fly. So I'm going to transition to this. So we're looking at her slides here. I can select the next scene to come up in the preview, and if I go to transition, it's going to cut to that. Let's try this one. Load that up in the preview by selecting it in the scenes. Click transition to make it part of the live recording. And then I want to go to just the speaker, load it up in the preview, and then click transition to put it into the live program. And I would just keep on doing that. So I can hear the presentation, and I can just keep on doing that, right? So if there's a lot of content or text on the slide, I would probably want to make that text readable. So I might just go to the slide only. If there's room for the speaker down in the bottom, then I would definitely just include the speaker video there. And then your other scenes, you just sort of use as you see the opportunity to. And I'm often like, I often don't know what the speaker is going to present, right? I don't know what they're going to say next. I don't know what slide they're going to show next. So it all happens really on the fly. So it is just about sort of making that judgment call about what you're actually going to feature. So this is some text here. So this is a good scene for that. But after a minute, maybe people have read the text. So I'm going to transition. I'm going to move that up a bit smaller so it's less of a focus. And if my speaker is still talking about the thing that's that they've just shown, then I might just want to just focus on the speaker. Oftentimes speakers will have some more dynamic content, like some animations and stuff. And then just to keep things interesting, it can be helpful just to show the slide as well. I'll show you a couple other little tricks here too, because I can duplicate the slide only And I'm going to call this slides only custom crop. And now I have a duplicate. So I've got two of these slides only scenes. And what I'm thinking about is just wanting to really zero in on one aspect of the presentation. So I just want to show just what's happening here. And so I can do that with a custom crop. And I still got the full slide here. There's the custom crop scene, and I can transition to that. And then I can go back to the slides only, or back to the slides with the speaker as well. So you can create your scenes on the fly as well. And I do that all the time, because sometimes what happens is a slide that I maybe designed a scene that I designed a couple slides ago, it doesn't really work anymore. And so, if I wanted to put my speaker over on this side, then I could do that. If I just wanted to just make them smaller because there's more happening, more content, then I can do that as well. If I'm doing something like this, again, I might want, this is the scene with the full slide, but I might want to duplicate that, and I might want to say it's a slide with a custom crop. And so on the fly, I might want to just focus on just this, and then transition to just that little plot. Where I have the speaker with the thumbnail, this is her entire slide that's on the screen. I'm choosing to just zero in and focus on this one piece. Of course, as soon as it gets doesn't match up, then you want to switch back to that. The other thing that is helpful to know is that you'll often, if speakers are coming in and out, especially if you're doing this for a live stream, then just switching back to the full Zoom scene is like always a safe bet. Because if people are switching between what they're doing on Zoom, then just going to the full scene will guarantee that you're not, cropping people's faces out or cropping people's presentations. Because if they're starting or stopping a screen share, that's going to affect where things are appearing in your screen. Or if other speakers are joining or leaving, that's also moving people around on the screen. And so it might affect where your sources are there as well. So after I've gone through this whole talk, I can stop recording. But Connor, you've got a question?
I was just wondering, what happens if you edit the scene that is currently in the program window?
Yeah, good question. So you can't edit the scene that's currently in the program. If I select the same, let's just play this again. So it just keeps on going. So I've got my speaker with a thumbnail. I'm transitioning to this. If I want to edit this scene, I can select it again from my scene selection, speaker with slides thumbnail, and I can edit the preview without it changing the program. So I can make these kinds of changes. And then when I go to transition, it's transitioning to this edited version of that scene. But now I've edited that scene. So that's why I sort of mentioned the custom crop or the custom. If you wanted to change something about it, it can be helpful to just duplicate it. So if I said, this is like, I would just give myself a note, right? So I said, this is slide with thumbnail left, right? So I want these larger slides here like this. if I wanted to edit that, I would probably create another one, another duplicate scene, and I would just call it slides right. And on that version, I would edit them. So now I've got a different scene with that edit available. But if I want to go back to what I just had without having to move things around again, now I can just go back to the first one. Yes,
I have a question, maybe.
Yes,
Pierre.
Pierre.
Is it reasonable to actually duplicate every scene with as a temporary copy, such that you can do exactly that kind of on-the-fly modification?
You can, for sure. You will, like, things can get messy. So the way that I have it set up here, this is I'm working with one video source, right? And I'm just separating that video source into two, let's call them channels, or references of the source. So I have the video source and I'm just choosing the speaker and then just choosing the slides and doing a couple things there. When you have something like, so let me just load up, I stopped recording. Yeah, okay. If I want to load up something from a previous event, like Astronomy on Tap, you'll see I've got a lot of scenes here, and each of these scenes is set up with a specific configuration. So absolutely, very, very helpful for you to be able to create those custom duplicates, but just to try and make sure that you're keeping them organized a little bit. Let's go back to what I had here.
Okay, I have another question. It seems to me I have a problem to grasp how you get your source if it's coming from Zoom. I didn't get that really.
Yeah, oh, for sure. So so what I wanted to demo in this section was the recording. So this is a pre-recorded video, and my the intention behind showing this is just to show you one of the workflows that you can use OBS for. And so if you wanted to do something a bit, more dynamic and engaging with a talk that you've already prepared, you can record yourself doing the talk in Zoom or, just on your webcam or whatever. And then have that material to work with in the way that I'm working with this pre-recorded video. But yeah, when you're doing a live event, which I'm going to get to next, you're actually doing a live screen capture of Zoom. So I'll just show that in a moment. Connor?
I was wondering if you're going to have several videos that are kind of formatted the same way, like this one is just a standard Zoom grab. Is it possible to have all of these scenes like pre-set up and you just swap out the video file itself and it does all the cropping like you have before, so you don't have to remake the scenes each time?
I'm actually not sure I know what you mean.
Like if you had a different video file than this one,
Yeah.
Is there a way you could just swap it out with this current one and it would have you would have all of these scenes with the different crops for the speaker, for the slides, already done on the new file instead?
Right. I believe so. So yeah, so if I right click on the source and just go to properties, I can select which local file I'm referencing for this, and I can, browse around that, and I can pull in, a different talk, and load that up instead. So it will, like, It will depend a little bit on the resolution of the video. The size of the video would have to be the same. So as you can see here, this video is a little off.
Yeah, it would only work when the two videos are formatted identically.
Yeah. It would also depend on, like the speaker being in the same position, that kind of thing as well. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, it's a good question, because my point earlier about setting up the scenes and then being able to reuse your scenes is still what I'm talking about. So did I go to, I think I was working on blank before. Yeah, sorry. So this is, here's this. So if I switch this for a different video, let's try this one. Maybe it's closer to the same format. Okay, so I've swapped this out. Now I would just go and just resize a few things. So I would go to my full zoom scene. This is going to be the same. For the slides only, I would just recapture that. So actually that looks pretty much the same as well. So we've got the slides only slides only custom crop, slides with the speaker thumbnail. So this, it seems like there's, I want to do some editing just to get the speaker. But once I have that, then, you know, I should be in good shape, because I can always copy that source and put it into my other scenes. So there's the speaker. I can delete that, copy the speaker in here, and just reorder it like that. Like that. So yeah, it should be fairly easy to sort of reconfigure your scenes around a new video. Okay, so we set up our scenes, we went through the recording. Is there, before we go into the streaming, are there any questions about that recording workflow? So with the streaming, there's a lot of the same things that are going to be happening, but obviously there's a...
Zach, I think there is a question.
Oh, there is.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sorry, it's Pierre again.
Yeah.
For a conference, we're expecting the speakers to send us a little video of themselves through a Zoom system, right? For a Zoom conference. We're not going to specify how they're going to record that, but would there be some specifics that we should ask them to say, record the video with the sound separate, or just you, or just the talk, or you know, for synchronization of the talk or the slides to the speaker? I don't know how we would do that, or just a single video with themselves using OBS to organize that and send us these links. Then we just paste into a single MP4 file at the end.
Yeah, so it's a good question. There's a lot of things that you could request that would make your life easier. I sort of the opposite way. I don't mind making my life harder if it makes things easier for other people. It also means they're probably more likely to do it. So if you're already asking them to provide you with a video or something, I wouldn't give a whole lot of restrictions around how they should be doing that. The beauty of OBS is that you can really meld whatever they provide you with into really nice and usable content. So if one person just had a video of themselves talking with the camera, and another person had a thing with a screen share and a slideshow, you know, I would advise you as the kind of producer of that event to just be, you know, say whatever. However, like that being said, if you had thematically some suggestion of what that content should be, right? Like if you want them to talk about, you know, their career story just on their own, or if you want them to be giving them an overview of their research, then those are things that you should definitely communicate, and will just help them give you the material that you're looking for. So with that in mind, like, yeah, if it's a matter of screen share or no screen share, then again, it would be up to you, but you could also make that suggestion. So you could say, you know, can you record 30 seconds or a minute of, you know, your career story, why you're interested in physics or whatever, without any slides. Or you can say, can you record, you know, a half-minute video of an overview of your research, and you can include slides if you want, and just give the video that way. The other thing you can do, right, is and no matter what you ask, people will submit wildly different things, right? So even if you ask for a recording of the presentation, they might send you a video of themselves on their webcam and a PowerPoint file with their slides. And that's not impossible to produce in OBS either, because what you would then be doing is you'd just be loading the PowerPoint as a captured window into OBS, and then switching between their video and their slides that way, in the same way that I've just sort of shown that recording workflow.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so this link here, let me copy this link. Where is it? This link, can I copy it? Because I want to copy it into the chat so that people can access it. Goodness gracious. Can't copy it from the presenter view. Okay, so this is a document that I've put together. This is a document in progress, actually. So it's a shared, it's in a Google Drive. So I do kind of add to this as people ask me questions. So I'm sure there will be questions that arise from this, which will prompt some additions to this document. But it's intended as just sort of a step-by-step process for the streaming workflow. Let me bring up my slide notes again. Okay. So yeah, so I want to talk a bit about the streaming workflow here. And what we will do here is, let's go back to OBS. And sorry, this is going to be a little bit tricky, because I realized that usually when I'm streaming, producing a live stream, it's coming from my Zoom capture as a viewer, not as a presenter. So just give me a moment to do something here. Okay. I'm going to start a new scene collection. Oh, I'll call it stream test. Okay, so I don't have any sources. I'll start by adding a source, and how you add a live source is you add a window capture. So when you select add a window capture, it's going to prompt you for a name. I'm just going to call it Zoom. And here is the next challenge. How do I actually capture? I have my meeting controls. I've got Okay. Normally, if you are producing this event, you'll have Zoom on a screen and you can just select Zoom. But because I'm presenter, it's not giving me that option. What I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to capture my window. So I'll do screen display capture. Yeah. And I'll just call this, I'll just call it display capture. And now you can see I have this, I'm capturing my display here. So now I have my live Zoom here happening, and I can start by cropping in on this. And again, if I grab on the corners, I can resize these sources. And if I want to crop them, I'm holding down Alt and then dragging them in like so. Alt. There we go, and Control F to put that onto full screen. Great. And the other thing I'll want to do is I'll want to capture again. So if you're capturing Zoom, normally you would have your presenter actually sharing their screen, and so you would have the same. I would duplicate this so that I have two of these, and then one of them is going to be the presentation. So I'll just say that Mark is the presentation that I'm capturing here. So I can slide that over. And so Mark's face is the slides. There we go. Okay, so let's start making some scenes. We'll duplicate this, and the first one I should do actually is just do the full Zoom scene. So what I'm going to do there is just show the full Zoom window. And as I said before, this is a very helpful scene for you to be able to go to when things are changing around a bit. Transform. Oh, my graphics are acting up. Control F will do it. So again, I'm going to call this, go right click, rename. Things are starting to get laggy here for me. which is I put in that streaming document that it can be very helpful to be plugged into your Wi-Fi directly. Because when you start dealing with Zoom capture and streaming, you're handling a lot of bandwidth. Okay, so full Zoom scene. Scene 2. I'll say is speaker only. And I'll delete the slides. And this is speaker with thumbnail. So I want that kind of up to the side here and move myself over a little bit. And then I can set up my other scenes here too. So this is slides with speaker thumbnail. So as you can see, the setup for a live event stream is actually the same. Not the same. It's very similar, except now we're using things like the window capture and the display capture. Instead of a pre-recorded video as our source. But aside from that, it's pretty similar. Okay, so speaker only, slide with speaker and that, okay. So let's just say that's good. There are a couple other scenes that I might want to use if you can think of your Zoom scene as being like the split, right? So you have your screen share on one side and your speaker on one side. You can click and drag that divider over. So I actually usually drag that divider over to the middle. So the video of my speaker is actually the same size as the video of the slides. And that allows me to maintain the same kind of quality of the video when I'm switching between looking at just the speaker or just the slides, because they're both the same size on my screen. They're both the same resolution. And then I can switch between them and neither one of them looks, pixelated. But if I had the slider way over, or what often happens by default, if you're recording a Zoom presentation, is the screen share takes up 90% of the screen. And then if you want to capture that little video of your speaker, that's actually quite a small resolution that you're then increasing the size of. So if you have the option to use Zoom as your source, sliding that divider into the middle will really help that help the video quality stay consistent. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I have a few scenes set up here. I'm actually going to go to my YouTube channel. I'm getting really laggy now.
Do you recommend having a GPU if you're going to do this kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. It depends on what is available to you, really. My laptop is pretty decent. It's got like a pretty decent graphics card with a few gigs of RAM just in the graphics card, so it can handle a fair amount. Yeah, there are a few of those sort of more technical considerations which you would want to just test out on your own to see if your equipment was sort of up to the task. But it's lagging, especially because of the display capture, which isn't always a part of it. And then also because I'm, speaking in Zoom and then doing the screen share in Zoom as well, which I wouldn't be doing. If I was recording a live event, I wouldn't be rebroadcasting to Zoom. I'd be rebroadcasting through OBS. So there are a few extra things that are happening right now, which are adding to the workload of my computer here. So can I open a window? That's the question. What I wanted to show was just the sort of setting up YouTube for streaming. But what I will show is actually just those settings in OBS for you to be able to get that set up. So if you click on settings, it actually shows you a number of different things that you can do with in terms of audio monitoring and the stream quality, the recording quality, all of that kind of stuff. So if you go to stream, you can select the streaming channel that you want to use. So if you can select YouTube. You can connect your account, which it says in brackets is recommended. But what that will do is that will just give you a live stream to your account, and we'll just start a live streaming video. What you'll likely want to do, and what I would recommend, is to use the stream key. And in that way, what you'll do in YouTube is you'll actually schedule a live event. You can then in YouTube have a bunch of different settings in terms of visibility. So if I wanted to just do a demo here today, I would schedule a live event, but I would make it an unlisted event so that nobody is discovering it on YouTube. Nobody's coming across it if they're visiting our channel, but I would have a URL that I could share with the rest of you to actually go and see that stream, but you would need that URL to access it. And in that case, I would have a custom stream key that would be paired to that live stream event. And so I would go to stream key, and I would enter the stream key from YouTube into this field here. And then I would go to apply. And okay. And
would it make sense to, I mean, I can make a YouTube with stream
sure, yeah. Why don't you
show...
do that, Mark? And because we have a few minutes left. If you just want to share, I'll stop sharing my screen. If you want to share your screen of just actually making that that scheduled event.
Sure. I'm very embarrassed by the number of tabs I have open. So let me just take a moment and switch my account to McDonald's too, and then here. So this is what I see on my end when I'm, say, scheduling an event, or I'm not going to schedule an event right now. Instead, I'm going to do a live event so that we can do it here on the fly, but it's very, very similar button. So here I'm on the McDonald's Institute account, and here there's a plus. So this is, and if I hover over it, usually, making a liar out of me. Usually when I hover over it, it's like go live. Okay, apparently I click it and then it gives me the option. So I can either upload a video that say we recorded using OBS, or I could go live. But even when you go live, it doesn't like start anything for you right away, probably because we're not actually linked to OBS account. And I can either do, I can go to stream if I want to do something live right now, which is what I'm going to do. Or I can do schedule a stream. And that's what I do for events like Astronomy on Tap on March 3rd. And so you can see that we've already done that. It's upcoming. If I click on that, I can get the keys so that we can be ready for the event when we do it live. Instead, I could do a stream. And now this is set up. The stream key is hidden so that you guys can't see it. And I don't think there's any issue with me revealing that. I just want to make sure that it's unlisted. So this event is unlisted. So now I can copy this, it's copied to my clipboard, and I'll just message it to Zach privately in the chat. And then he puts that in on the OBS side. And I think at this point, maybe it's better for you to be sharing what happens when you put that key in.
Yeah, for sure. So I will grab the key.
But as you saw on my end, it was like waiting for a streaming service to connect with those keys. And so right now it's saying connect stream software to go live. So it's waiting for that connection. Now that I've given the keys to Zach, or if I'm running OBS on my own computer, as soon as I put that in, then something's going to happen. And Zach will showcase that.
Okay. Okay, so here's our OBS. I go to settings. To stream, use stream key, paste the stream key in here.
And once we're live, everyone, if you want to actually see the feed, you would go here.
And there's two steps to this actually as well. So what I do from OBS is I click on start streaming, and that will connect with YouTube. And then on Mark's end, he actually will see that there's a feed coming in, and then he can sort of publish it and make it live.
So the one exception to that actually is because this is a stream live now, as soon as Zach hits start streaming, it is streaming to YouTube. The control deck of YouTube do not get access to that. On a scheduled Zoom, it's the other way around. I have to hit on YouTube, okay, start the actual feed. And so if you go, and right now, like Zach has nothing, he hasn't started the program, there's no audio. So if you go to the YouTube, it's just a black screen right now. But
so
the connection's excellent.
Yeah, so if I want to start showing something, then I would just click on transition, and there we have, and you'll notice a bit of lag if you're watching on Zoom here and on YouTube. There's usually about between 7 and 10 seconds of lag between what's happening there and what's happening here. And yeah, so the last thing I do want to mention is I've captured the Zoom displays, but you'll notice if you're watching the YouTube that there's no audio. And what we need to do there is we need to capture the audio output. And again, I'm just going to call this Zoom audio. Okay, and it's going to ask what device I want. And this is why I mentioned the virtual cable before. I'm going to select one of the virtual cables. I'm going to select cable A, and then click OK. And in Zoom, can I move Zoom over here? This is infinitely more complex when I'm when I'm actually presenting this. From Zoom, I need to change my speakers from Zoom to that virtual cable B.
This will have the added effect of you no longer being able to hear me.
Well, yes, and that's why I do need to turn the monitor on in OBS, which I mentioned before as well.
And as we wait for just the audio settings that Zach has to set up, and this is always a fun little part of setting up for our events, is just all these virtual cables that allow his input. Because on the other side of this, and it's a nice little trick that will actually be applied in this feed, as Zach will demonstrate in a moment. As you recall, when you talk in Zoom, you don't hear yourself in Zoom. And because his audio capture in Zoom, right, is basically his speaker for Zoom, the YouTube feed from him producing the session, it never captures his own audio. And so that's a very, very useful feature that we have in our events, in that Zach is able to communicate with speakers or myself without that necessarily being captured by anybody watching. And so it's a great and an efficient way to communicate. One of the things that we have struggled with before is because of that lag is really knowing when we've gone live. And Zach is able to communicate that with me, no issue. Once he sets all his audios so that that basically his audio is still being picked up from Zoom. Zach, I don't know if you're hearing me, but I see you're nodding. So I don't know if your audio is back now that we can hear you on Zoom, but it sounds like we can't hear you.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, thanks for that, Mark. That is a bit of detail that is important to be aware of. Just connecting those audio pieces and setting up the monitors as well, so you can hear what's happening.
And maybe it's worth, can you share your screen just one last time of what your sources are for that scene? I think it would be interesting to see kind of the final, what that looks like on the audio input and output side.
It's yeah, it's not working exactly how it does when I'm capturing Zoom, because I have the display capture, so it's like a bit of a workaround here because I'm presenting, so it's not quite the same anyways. But if you know, if you're using what I was talking about before, even with the recorded video, and you saw the audio track in the audio mixer, that's what you would go to. So you have your audio input, and the only difference is that if you have a recorded video, then that video has video and audio in one source. But if you're capturing Zoom, you're capturing the window, and then you're capturing that audio input separately. But they're both being fed from the same application, so you don't have to worry about like synchronizing or anything like that. All you have to make sure is that you're monitoring those pieces, and yeah, just making sure that you can hear what's going on.
Great. Well, I'm recognizing the time. We are over 4 o'clock. Thank you for filling in the poll. Zach, do you have anything else you would like to say? I think it is important that we try to wrap up to respect everybody's time.
Absolutely. That was it. I mean, the other thing that I had was sort of just to take turns doing the live stream, but that was an extra little feature, and you can definitely just play with that on your own, right? So play around with the scenes, play around with, you know, creating like you don't even have to produce or record anything, just switch between scenes, play around with the transitions, that kind of stuff. The only thing I will mention is that if you do want to stream to YouTube, your YouTube channel has to be active for 24 hours before you can do a live stream. So just something to keep in mind if you're planning an event but don't have a channel set up yet. Make sure that you actually get all of that stuff set up well in advance.
Yeah, really good note. All right, Zach, I want to thank you so much for the session today. I think I would imagine if people are trying this out on their own and have questions, that you'd be more than willing to take those questions. I want to give everybody an opportunity to take off that needs to, but I don't know, Zach, if you'd be available, just linger for a few minutes to answer any more questions.
For sure.
Just to kind of officially close out the PDO, I want to thank everybody for coming, and I hope you and the poll suggests that you guys got a lot out of it. So thanks again, and we will be back, I think, in 2 weeks with the next session. So thank you.